In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Elster to file your tax declaration in Germany for free. This Elster tutorial in English would cover the most important forms students and employees need to fill in order to submit a tax return in Germany. If you're new to the channel, I'm Essen and this video is going to be a long one. You will find the timestamps below so that you can move to specific sections you need help with or come back to the video later on and see a specific section. For all mandatory tax filers, the deadline for self-declaration is usually the last day of July of the following year. And in order to use Elster, you need to register, which can take between 10 to 15 days. So please take that into account. Once you have registered, you can create a login certificate and use it to log in. Once you log into Elster, this is how the platform is going to look like. On the left hand side, you have your profile and other formulas and details. On the right hand or the top right hand side, you can choose from English or German. Or choosing English language has its own limitations because, as it says, this is based on DeepL, which uses machine learning for its services. You can use it, but I've seen that personally it's not that great. However, it can help you out in just the basic understandings. You can also use Google Translate, which is also okay. All right, so once you want to get started, you can click here to start your income tax return. Now, as you can see here, I've used Elster before. So if you are using it for the first time, your options might be a little bit different. So I'm going to select a new household and select Weiter to get started. If you are a first-time user, you'll have a screen similar to this. However, if you have previously submitted a tax return using Elster, you can take information from your previous submissions. As we are using it for the first time, so we're going to use without data overtaking. Next, we can again use a very useful feature from Elster, which is the form assistant. Let me just change the language to English. So this is the form assistant, which you can use to select specific forms. I'll show you how this wizard goes. So first, you'll need to write down the person A, and if you're submitting a joint declaration with your spouse, you're also going to need to write person B or wife or whatever. Just a sample name, and in your case, you're also going to write down the identification number for you and your spouse. You can continue with the wizard. Here we can select different things. For example, would you like to provide information for your child? Yes or no. Have Riester pension. Have a special donations, extraordinary expenses for medical or disability allowance. A lot of options to choose from. You can select yes or no in many things. You can move to different pages, or you have to select yes or no to specific things. This will help you choose the right forms for you. However, in this example, I'm going to go back and go without Anlage Assistant so that we select specific forms. All right. So here we have two of the main forms which are absolutely necessary for every single tax declaration. So it's going to be this one and this Anlage one. We can also, again, as you've seen, I've done this multiple times. So we can again use Google Translate to change this to English. But in most cases, at least in the form selection, I would use the original format because the translation does not correctly explain many things. In today's example, we're going to select the main form, then the Vorsorgeaufwand form. The Anlage N is very important or essential for employees or anyone who has regular work-related expenses. Then you have certain optional forms which you can select. For example, the Anlage KIP, which is the form when you fill out capital gains information. Another important form is the Anlage SO, where you fill out gains or profits from cryptocurrencies, profits from any third-party selling items. For example, if you sell on eBay or if you do a lot of private sales of stuff. If you have invested in gold, you can also add the information using this form. Another very important form for expats in Germany is the Anlage. This is the form which you select when you send money to your parents, parents-in-law, children, your spouse back home in your home country. Another important form is the Anlage N if you have a child. A very good thing is you can select the question mark here. So depending on your situation, select the forms which are applicable for you using the question mark to get help. So initially we're going to get started with just 3 forms, and then I'll be adding further forms throughout the video. So let's click right on. For many people, the finance arm has information sent to them by the employer. This is a great option which you can use and take the information which the finance arm already has from your employer and use those certificates. This can save you a lot of time by autofilling the information that is already at the finance arm. But in our example, we are not going to select this option because we do not have any forms. Okay, so the type of form that we are filling today is the Einkommensteuererklärung. Then we have the Steuernummer. This is the tax number which can change depending on your federal state in Germany. So first select the federal state you live in and add the tax number. You can again select the question mark and find out where you can find your tax number. For example, if you have any official document from the Finanzamt or usually from your employer. And the formatting is given in this manner. So something like this for Baden-Württemberg and so on and so forth. In case you do not have a Steuer number or tax number, you can also apply for it. So select this option from the drop-down list, select the federal state that you're living in right now, and then select the appropriate Finanzamt. So for example, let's say this is our Finanzamt, and then we can select nächste Seite. Okay. The navigation bar can also help you out in letting you know where you are in the tax return process. You can add or remove forms using this option here, Anlage hinzufügen or entfernen. So let's see. You come back to this form or you come back to this stage. You can select and go weiter. As you can see here, now we have this Anlage SO on the left hand side. Okay. Here we are going to add the information about the Finanzamt. If you have changed your residence in the past couple of months, you can add the information about the other city or the previous Finanzamt. For example, if you were living in Berlin and the Finanzamt X was your Finanzamt, you can write the name of that Finanzamt here. And as you have added the current Finanzamt in the previous step, you don't need to provide the current Finanzamt details here. So you add your phone number here, your identification number here, date of birth, and in case if someone is filing a tax return for someone in the family who has died, then you add the details of their death here. The following form is quite straightforward. Your name, first name, last name, the current address, current house number, current city, and if you are living outside Germany and trying to fill out the tax return from outside Germany, you can provide the postal code and you can also provide the country here. In number 12, you provide the details of your work. So if you're engineer, write down engineer. In line number 18, you provide your marriage details. Here it is very important that even if your spouse is not living in Germany and you are married, you provide your marriage date here. So let's say if you are married, you add your date and similar details like widowed or if you have been separated, etc. In the religion detail, you can provide your specific detail if it is applicable. If it's not, you can write down keine Angabe or sonstige and add your specific details here. So you can also select that you are not paying any church taxes and you're not obliged to pay any taxes for the church. If you have changed your religion, you can also add the information here. Please hit the like button if you're getting value from this video and consider subscribing. And if you are submitting the tax return along with your spouse, you can add their details here as well. So the identification number, date of birth, name, and same details as you added for yourself. So as I said, if you are submitting the tax return with your spouse, you can select this option. And if you are submitting it for yourself, you don't have to select anything and then collect. So even if you are submitting the tax return with your spouse, the steps would be quite similar, only that the details that you will be providing for yourself would be doubled, and you will be providing details for your spouse if they have any work related expenses or similar things, as you'll see in the next few minutes. Okay, so in section number 4, we are going to provide the bank details where the finance arm would send you your tax refund. So make sure that you are providing the correct details. So the IBAN number, if it is within Germany or within EU. If it is outside EU, then you provide the IBAN number and then the BIC which is attached to that banking institution. And is the account holder person number 1, which is the person who's filing the tax return, or is it belonging to the person number 2? So make sure you're selecting the correct option. If you select the incorrect option, then there might be an issue while receiving the money from the Finanzamt. After providing the bank details, we are going to go to the Anlage N. Here, as I said, you can add the information of the person who is submitting the tax return and their partner. So go to Mr. Tax, as this is our person, and we are going to fill out the details for Mr. Tax. We are going to need our Lohnsteuerbescheinigung. The Lohnsteuerbescheinigung is a document that you usually get with the December or January payslip, and it looks something like this. It has certain numbers, then a certain text, and then a euro amount is written here. There is your tax detail and other important information written as well. So you would need this to fill out the tax return, fill out the information here. So first thing is the tax class that you have. If you don't know, you can always have a look in the Lohnsteuerbescheinigung and see which tax class you have. If you are unsure, then ask your HR to give you a concrete answer. So let's say you have tax class 1, and based on your Lohnsteuerbescheinigung, we can fill out the information here. So Mr. Tax earns about 36,000 euros, pays about 3,700 as taxes. Solidarity surcharge is 0 for him. There's no church tax. And if you are having multiple tax classes or multiple Lohnsteuerbescheinigung, then you can always add other details here depending on your tax classes or depending on the jobs that you had from tax class 1 to tax class number 6. And if you had multiple jobs, or if any of your job had tax class number 6, you can add those details here specifically. We're going to go to next section. So always look at this Zeile, and it will always correspond to your Lohnsteuerbescheinigung. So number 5 was here. So let's say if you are paying 30.92, so you're going to write 30.92 here. And so let's say if you are paying 30, you write it down here, and whatever number corresponds to your Lohnsteuerbescheinigung, have a look at your Lohnsteuerbescheinigung and fill out the respective details here. Once you fill out whichever is applicable for you, you're going to go to the Werbekosten. In the number 10, we can select different kinds of materials which have been in our work life. For example, if you have bought any office material, you can add the amount here, select yes, and then if there are multiple things, you can always select the number, add the amount, and tick the checkbox to accept that option. Once you've added the relevant details, you can add or delete any specific data or move to the next page. In number 10, we can provide any details that were used if we had a workroom in our apartment or where we live. You can apply for yearly lump sum. You can add a specific amount in terms of your land tax, your rent, your garbage funds, anything which is relevant for you here. But in our example, we are going to skip this. Next, we have the home office pauschale. So this is the calculation based on the number of days you've spent in home office. So if there was another workplace available for your professional activity, and then you also had your home office days, you add those numbers here. And if there was no permanent office available for you and you are completely home office, then you add the details here. So let's say you worked 30 days, even though you had another working place. Next, in the Fortbildungskosten, we can add any professional seminars, any professional literature that helped us in our work. So let's say if you're an engineer and you attended, for example, you can add your German language course if you attended any in your Kurzgebühren, any specific literature. Let's say if you bought a book that helps you in your work, you can add those costs here as well. Once you have added all the relevant costs, you can, or for example, you can also add in any fees that you paid for any certifications or any professional material that you needed. In number 14, you can provide any flight costs for journeys between home and primary place of work. So this can be detailed here. For example, if you're living in Berlin and you took flights from Berlin to, let's say, Hamburg, and the flight was not paid by your employer, then you can add the amount here. Next, we have certain other costs. For example, advertising costs. Let's say you had applied for jobs and that costs you different kinds of things. For example, you were applying for jobs and there were postage costs, and you were sending applications via regular post, you were sending applications by email. You can add those costs here. You can also add costs for photocopies if you did any copies, if you traveled for interviews or for work purposes, if you bought any writing material, and your telephone costs as well. Once you add, go to the next page. In section 15, we provide the travel costs based on any travel that you did for work. So the professional travel costs are one of the biggest points that you can add in your tax return. This can give you a lot of return. So for a distance from your work to your home and from your home back to your work, you have a specific distance. So based on every kilometer that you travel with your car, you get 30 cents, or with any other motor vehicle, you get 20 cents. So if you have a specific cost, let's say in a year, you had travel costs of 1200 euros, you add that amount and then tick here, and you can add different. If you travel with train, you can also add train costs. So whichever is applicable for specifically. So again, I cannot cover every single section, but generally these are the things that one has to add. But if any of the other things are applicable for you, make sure you click this question mark to get help and add the details to whatever is applicable for you. So after that, you can add the details of person B or the spouse and go to the next page. In this form, we're also going to need our Lohnsteuerbescheinigung. So the number 23a or E is going to be here. The gesetzliche Rentenversicherung information is added here. Then add details from 22b, number 4 to 6, and any of the details that are written in your Lohnsteuerbescheinigung. And if you have an error or incorrect detail, you can go here and see what is written here. If you the correct details, click on Übernahme and then go to the next page. Here we provide the health insurance details. Then if you have a private health insurance, then you add the details here. In the previous page, we provided the information on the public health insurance. So in number 2, we provide the local gesetzliche Kranken- und Pflegeversicherung. In number 3, if you have privat or private Kranken or Pflegeversicherung. In number 4, if you have any Ausländischen or for example in any other country, then you add those details here. In most cases this is not applicable, but if it is, then add your details here. In case you got any tax-free employer contributions, you can add those details here for yourself or person B and spouse B. Here we provide the Arbeitslosenversicherung based on number 27 of the, so we're going to write it down here for yourself or person B, and add any other relevant details that you have, and then go to the next page. So at this moment we are almost done with the three main documents, but I want to add another very important document, which is going to be the Anlage Unterhalt. Please hit the like button if you're getting value from this video and consider subscribing. So this is the form which we fill out if we send money to parents, grandparents, spouse or children. Okay, so for this we're going to add a person here. We're going to go to the next slide. So this is the house address of the person being supported. So let's say if I'm supporting someone back in Pakistan, so I'm going to write down their address. Here we are going to write down the number of people who are living in that house. So let's say there are 2 people living here and we add 2. Go to the next page. Here we are going to add the time frame to when the assistance was provided. So let's say we provided from the 1st of January till the 31st of December. Then we are going to add the details of the payment time period. So the first day of the payment which was sent and the last day. So I've shared this in many videos that it's better that you start sending money as soon as possible within the year and don't send a huge lump sum by the end of the year. So if you follow that instruction and you send money 2 or 3 different bundles, first one is going to be the 1st of January and the last one is, let's say, 1st of June. And how much did you send overall? So let's say we sent 12,000 euros. Okay, so if there were multiple time frames, you can add multiple time frames, but we are going to add just a single time frame for the whole year. So in number 3, we are going to provide how much money did we send through bank. So let's say we provided all of the money through our bank. We're going to add this amount here. And if you send some money through cash, you can write down the details belonging to that cash payment. So when did you travel there? When did you give the money? And how much money was given? In this case, you would be asked for different kinds of documents. For example, proof of sending the money, proof of the person receiving it. You can make an affidavit saying that this money was given to X person in cash, and the proof of that cash payment is here. You can also write the details that if the person was living in an old home, you can add those details here. At the end, in number 20, you provide the after-tax salary of the person who's being supported. So let's say if the person who's being supported has no salary, you write down 0 or whatever is applicable and go to the next page. So here we are going to provide the name and personal details of the person who's being supported. So this is a point where a lot of people have issues or questions when it comes to the person being supported. And they are always asking about the Steueridentifikationsnummer. How can they add this identification number? If you provide the correct details, you will get a warning, but not an error if you do not provide an identification number for the person who's living outside Germany. So I'll show you here. So the name of the person being supported, their date of birth, and if they died in the last year, you can provide the death date here, their profession and their marriage status, and the relationship of this person to the person supporting them. So this person who's being supported is the father of the person who is sending this tax return. Okay, so make sure that you do it this way and not the other way around. And if the spouse of this person is also living in the same house, you provide the name of that spouse. So in number 25, you provide the details of the person receiving support lived in my domestic household. Generally, if they're living outside Germany, then they are not living with you. If yes, then you provide the details in which time frame. Was anyone entitled to child benefits? You provide those details, but generally those are not applicable. The person support, if the person being supported is your divorced spouse, you write yes. If no, then no. The person being supported is your spouse who is not permanently settled or not permanently separated. The person is maintaining. So from these details, select whichever is applicable and make sure you select the options and don't just leave it to not specified or kind and. So this can cause a problem. Okay. So did the supported person have any assets during the maintained period? Yes, they will have any assets. If they don't have any assets, you can always write no. So for the simplicity's sake, we are going to write down no. And total value of assets. So if they had any assets, you provide the total value of this asset. If they had no assets, then you don't need to provide those. You would also have to fill out the Unterhaltungserklärung form and get it signed from the union council or any district employee from where the supported person is living. So this information is going to correspond to all of the data we are providing here. So make sure that you provide the same information which you write down in this form so that everything matches. See here, I did not get any errors. I did not get any issues because I filled out the information correctly. So make sure that you fill out the form correctly so that you do not get any questions or you do not get any errors asking for the number or the Identifikationsnummer. Okay. So as I said, depending on the maintenance declaration form, you're going to provide the details for any income from non-self-employed work, any general income, any income from capital gains, other income, social income, or any other income which corresponds directly to these things. So whichever is applicable, add that detail, add the weitere Information if it is applicable for you or if it is applicable for them. If there were any contributions to health insurance or Pflegeversicherung, generally in third countries you don't have these options, so it can be left empty, but again it depends on your specific case. In section 4, if someone else also provided support to this person, then you write yes and provide the details, and if they did not get any support, then you select no and go to finish adding the person. So let's say if the father was supported and the mother was supported, you add the person here, add the same process, and the person or the mother would be added here, or any additional persons who are eligible can be added by adding the person here. So as you can see here, number of people, generally as we said, the father was added, the details for the mother should also be added, and the address is given here. We're going to go to the next page. Now once you're done with everything, if there are any errors or before submitting, you can select here and you'll be told if there are any errors or if there were any clues to maybe it could be wrong or it could be something important. So you can look at all the details that are missing, and once you add everything, then you can select the Versenden and send the form to the Finanzamt. And let's say if you are tired and want to save and come back to the form later, you can click Speichern and Formular verlassen. Here you can either go without saving, go back to the form, or save and go back. So once you've saved and you go back, you can always come back to this form by going to this Meine Formulare and then select the relevant form, and you'll always come back to the details which you are about to say. This was the Elster tutorial in English. It may be overwhelming for some people. That is why I have also created another video which can save you a lot of headache if you use a paid software instead of Elster. You can watch it here. So thanks for watching, bleib gesund, and I'll see you in this or this video.